one, remember the goal was stated. He's pre-qualified at 750. Client doesn't want to jump in with a payment. He wants his payment. If he's going to jump in, he wants his payment around this quote $650,000 price. So that's what I have to figure out. So I go, all right, let me look at the bottom of my sheet. So I got 3 3/8 on a 30-year fix. My points are almost 6 points. So 5.772. I'm not concerned about that right now. So I plugged it all in. The amount of the credit, I took the loan amount. So think of what I did here. I jumped on my calculator, 600,000, right? Times 5.772%. At 34,633. You see where I got that number? The percentage of the discount times the loan amount. That's the number I put into. Let me find it. There it is right there. So there's that number. So there's the amount of the credit. So I went ahead and just entered that in. 4.5%, it pulled it from there. I plugged in the points based on my rate sheet. I plugged in the amount of the rate drops from 4.5 to 3 7/8. I plugged in the income to qualify. I typed over this column. I wanted the actual price drop. So I matched what I need to my price drop. Don't put 100,000 price drop. It gets confusing. So I took my discount points dollar-wise, add them in column 2, which is my price drop, renamed my column 3 and 34K in the seller buydown. I usually renamed column 4, but I left it there. I'm going to keep going. I have default.
Scott, what do you normally rename that column to?
It depends. So that's a great question. So it depends on what the message I'm trying to portray here. So it could be I could type in, for an example, let's say I'm going at a listing agent. I could put the amount of a price drop, and I have to do it really small based on the characters. So if I'm targeting a listing agent in her property or his property, I'll put something about price drop needed, right? So I would say something like this, price drop. You know what I mean? So I do something like that, and so when I get to that column, it's already prepped for me there, or he or she's going to pick up on it quicker. Or if it's a buyer and a low, so I'll go low ball offer. So if I'm looking at this one, I'll probably leave it at this one right here. And so you can put your message in here. A lot of times what I do, again, what's the message here? I'll usually put a property address. I'll usually put the message, how to qualify for this property, or how to increase your qualification. In this case, I know the numbers pretty well. It was 200,000. So you'll see it in a second. How to increase your pre-qual by 200,000 with the same payment, right? Something like that on the header. But let's put that for now. And then I'm going to go ahead and review the report. Or actually, let me go. Let me pause it for a second. I skipped a spot for you. Well, let's just look at the report. Hey. So let's look at the columns I have now. So remember the goal. My agent asked me, text me whatever that night was, Monday night or something like that, was I have a client that's pre-qualified at 750. And he wants a 650 payment. So look at what I got. Column 1, and in the video, I'm narrating this now. Hey, Brad, it's Scott. So here's our numbers. So the first column is just where he was pre-qualified at. There's your 750 on a 710 FICO, putting 20% down, financing 600, your rate's 4.5, total payment out the door, PITI is 3896. So I'm going to set that up. Then I'm going to pivot and I go, Brad. So, and in this case, I actually pivoted right to the last column. I go, Brad, I'm going to cut to the chase. So, because my agent already knows this. So this is more like seller buy down. You're getting a little bit high end now. But so I showed you how I structured it. I'm telling you what's my reason for this. And now I'm going to explain to it. So I actually take a lot of this stuff. I'm only highlighting what I want them to pay attention to, right? So I go, Brad, if you just go right to the fourth column, here's what we got. I got you within $4,400 of your client's goal. So look what I have. So if we were to offer in a standard market, standard rate, $654, $395 with 20 down and a loan amount of $423, look at his payment, $3,508. So there's your offer, but look in column 3. So I'm going to go backwards. So I go right to column 4. I delivered the goods. Look, it's $654. Yeah, I missed it by a 44. I'm sure he'll live with that. It's only a few bucks. But what we're doing, Brad, is column 3. We're going to offer a fair price value based on comps at $750, 20 down, finance 600. I'm going to use the seller buy down for 34 to get it 3 3/8 on a jumbo 30-year fix. Look at my payment, $3,508. So I've achieved the goal of buying this property using the buy down to get the buyer's price as he feel like he's getting it at $654.
Beautiful. So does anyone see exactly how this is going to play in, not only with the client and anyone on the referral side, but the community that it's in, how it will impact the community that it's in? Because we know standard protocol is as rates go up, we see home prices typically start to fall. Where now, if we're able to come in with a seller buy down, offering it at that same level, because if we know there's not going to be an appraisal problem in the beginning, then being able to offer the seller buy down, selling it at the same area, you're also saving that community from seeing prices home dropped and people losing out on equity. So it is a win-win situation in all circumstances. Scott?
Right. Yeah, and so look at the way you can spin this, right? So let's say you're now instead of I'm working with a buyer's agent on this, that his buyer wants this particular property, right? And it's setting up for it. So this property is in Riverside County, right? So you and I both know, being locals here, this is going to be a problem because once you get over 484, with a 44 or 350, you get into jumbo land. So you're in no man's land up there. So that's an area that's struggling in the Inland Empire, right? So a listing agent's typical move is really start to cut to appease a buyer to come in and just buy it, right? So she's planning or he's planning the message to the seller, we got to cut. Mm-hmm. But from this perspective, shoot, I got a client that wants his house, but he needs a payment to fit. So I presented it this way. I can take this whole presentation, right, and then redo this for like the listing presentation. So I'm going to reframe the presentation, right? So I'm going to go, so I would pull up, get rid of all this stuff, re-record my video and say, hi, thanks for listening. My name's Scott from, The listing agent and the seller have approved a $34,000 seller buy down for this property. Here's what this means for you. So buyer's agents, if you're watching this video, if you have a client in the 650 range, somewhere in there that's maybe maxed out that wants to get to another level, this is for you. So here's how this will work. So a typical scenario in today's market with typical financing is going to look like this. I'm going to zip down column 1. And so if you have a buyer that thinks to attack price, or I'll give you 2 options, or actually let me reframe the video, and I just did this one. So now I'm going to speak to a buyer from the listing agent's perspective and market to your buyers, to potential buyers. You following me here? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to reframe the message. So now, whatever you're going to do is, so the seller and the listing agents have approved me to give you for a $35,000 concession, and I'm going to give you 2 choices how to spend it, right? So this is another way to use this. So before we get into that, let me go into column 1. This is your typical financing. I'm going to go down this and just highlight, really simple. So there's your payment. Yeah, there goes. Yeah, we don't qualify for that. So if you're going to go ahead, so the first one is, do you want to take the 34 off price? And if you do that, here's column 2. So here's your first option. So I'm giving the client options. They feel empowered when you give them options. Mm-hmm. So the first one, okay, so I'm going to take your 35 off price. Here's what that translates. That translates into $176 savings and the income to qualify went from 114 to 108. Not much. But here's your second choice. And we're going to go ahead and implement a seller buy down. And what that is we're going to give them fair value, which means we can get an appraisal on it and it's agreed upon you and the seller. So let's say it's $750 in this case. I'm going to put the same 20 down, finance the same 600, but in there, I'm going to go and implement a seller buy down. I'm going to take you down to 3 3/8 on a jumbo 30-year fix. Now look at the impact. The impact now is $387 a month. Look at my income to qualify. Now I'm down to 102 for qualifying income. So that's a big dent on your ratios to qualify. But not only that, buyer's agent, if your buyer is one, stuck in a certain pre-qual, or two, looking for that offer, the fourth column is where it's at. So here's what I mean by that. Agent, if your client is stuck maybe with their lender, stuck at 454, well, let's look at this. 454, their bank has approved them at 4.5 30-year fix on a total payment of $3,508 and income of 102. Well, think of if you go back one column, agent, and we go at 750, we'll give you the 34. Our lender will approve or implement a seller buy down. We've moved you up 95,000 in qualifying without affecting, the ability to qualify. Or the second would be if your buyer's looking for that deal in this market and trying to go through the Inland Empire and looking at whatever your territories are or your cities and such, we can give you our house for $750, implement the seller buy down, and give you basically $95,000 off on payment. So if you were to buy it at $654, your payment would be $3,508. That's identical to column 3 in your seller buy down. So we've attacked it from different angles on how you want to deliver the same message.
I totally agree. And Rick, I commonly get that question. Rick's question is he's in a market where the prices aren't dropping much and he's not seeing that movement. So is this mostly something that you use for jumbo homes?
No. So Rick, so it's Rick from Virginia, right? Virginia?
Rick, are you from Virginia? And you can just raise your hand if you are. You don't have to type it in. Oh, Utah. He's from Utah.
Oh, okay. Shoot.
But that's all right. We can go into the Virginia one. He's going to show you a sample, and this is what I teach all the time on how you can find the homes that are, a candidate for seller buy down, because I don't care what community you're in, there's always that possibility of finding these homes, and not only finding the homes, but then building the relationship between realtors in that community that only know the thought to do a price drop.
Let's see. I actually pulled some of your guys' houses you wanted me to look at. So here's one in Iowa. There was somebody in Iowa, and I apologize if I forgot your name.
That's all right. I'll find them.
So what this is here, so we're in Iowa now, right? So what I want to show you, this is what I would be looking at. So when I gave the webinar on Tuesday, I broke them into 2 categories if you're looking in Zillow. I want pre-drop, pre-reduction, and post-reduction. So this is something that's going to be setting up for a pre-reduction intro. So I would pull it, if I'm in Iowa, I would pull this property up, maybe research this agent. Do you even want to work with her, right? Do some due diligence here. So yeah, that's an agent I've never been able to get into. So let's go ahead and take this, because think, it's been on 45 days. I'm speaking to all peers here, so we don't really believe what his estimate is an actual, but let's just say it's right. But this thing's already under 30,000 undervalued. Why is this sitting here? Well, it's a jumbo. This one's in particular jumbo. So this is something I'm going to want to pull up, do my seller buy down, create the video, speak to her. And what the angle here with this agent, this is called a pre-drop or a pre-reduction. I want to teach her, say, don't price reduce. And what I wanted to show in that, what I would show in the column, and I would say, hey, if you price reduce, right, whatever, let's just say it's 35,000. Let's just say this was the actual presentation you built. So you loaded all her stuff in. The price drop, you could put something of, that's probably, oh shoot, what do you think that is? She's going to probably hit that for at least maybe 20, 30 in there, easy.
At least, yeah.
So I would build a presentation on maybe 10 or 15, right, to have the same impact, or even take that same 30. Now, actually, I'd probably take the 30,000 in here, build my presentation. So I'd load in, I think it was bear with me, whatever it was, 950, I think it was, whatever it was. So I'm going to load in column one, just what the typical buyer is looking at. Next door, I'm going to take it maybe 30. I'll do a price drop for 30, and she'll see, and I'm going to educate her, your 30,000 drop is not doing much. It maybe dropped them 1.5%, 2%. It saved the client $176 in this case. But I'm going to take the same 30, go to my rate sheet, figure out what I can get. So let's say it's 4.5, and I go to 3 7/8 or something like that, or 3 3/4, whatever. And everyone's sheets are different. So, and I'm going to plug that in, and that's going to give me my savings. But here's really, it hits this listing agent in between the eyes. You show her that fourth column. So the $30,000 rate drop is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of a $90,000 price reduction. There's that 3-to-1 ratio again. Taking 30 to rate is equivalent to 90 in price. So she's going to go, oh, wow. So I would have to drop 90 to get the same financial benefit for that client. So here's one in Iowa. That's what I would do. And they're everywhere. Let's start moving around. Go ahead.
When you go into Zillow, there is actually a filter in Zillow. If you go to that more on the filter, there is a spot where you can go in there and pull up price drops.
Yep. Yeah,
or how many days on Zillow.
You can look. So once I'm in, I don't know where I'm at right here, but once I'm in that city, right, and then it'll load. I'm in Iowa, I think, right now. It'll load all of that. So let's go.
So Redfin also has it where you can look up and find which homes have price dropped. Look for just the homes that have a price drop on them. And every community has those homes.
Okay, so let's do this. So there was somebody on the call that it was in, where are we at, in Jersey, Princeton, Jersey, right? So I pulled up his, and they were everywhere. Princeton's nice. So all of a sudden, let's look at Princeton, Jersey on this one. So look at this estimate. He may have price dropped to value, but I'm not going to buy that. So what I would do on this one, so $1,025,000 price drop, $75,000. That's a huge one right there. He may have taken the listing high, he or she, and then moved it down to value. They may have done that. So this presentation I would create for her, Beatrice. Yep, for her, I would say this is a post drop, right? She's already done it. I'm going to say, hey, I don't want to rub it in her face like, man, you just cost your buyer, I could have done it for $30,000 or $25,000. Shoot, you just gave $75,000. So one, you can take that angle. Hey, next time you do that, I could have the same impact, for 25 that way. But I'm going to pitch this. Let's talk about moving forward. She's 82 days on market. If this thing's still going, I'm going to present it to her. Our next move, let me help you. Let's present a seller buy down, and I can do it for whatever your numbers come out. Let's just say it's 25. So build the presentation. I would speak to the presentation to a buyer's agent or a buyer, right? So I'm going to say, hey, Beatrice, so I'll present it to her, but I'm going to record my video as if I'm marketing to pull in buyers in here, right? So whatever, does that make sense? So, here's one for Brick, New Jersey. So this one's interesting because this is a really nice house, but what's so interesting, look at the days on market. So we're at 70. Most of the time an agent's going to do something, they're panicking on day 25 if there's no activity. So he's on day 70. I would pull this one up, do a pre-reduction seller buy down. You dictate the terms on how much you're going to use, and let your rate sheet and you can be small or you can be aggressive. Someone like this, if it's sitting on 7 days, he's going to easily hit it. And it really depends on the seller. Mm-hmm. He can easily hit this property. He's thinking in his mind, at least probably 20, 25 or 30. They hit it pretty hard. He may come down into the 749, 900. So he could hit this thing for 40 easily. So you're going to go in there and say, no, hey, I'm going to help you preserve the situation. But here's the thing too. Here's another angle. It's sitting here and the seller could be dictating what's going on. And so I'm going to have a conversation with Michael here and say, hey, Michael, I did a presentation. I want to teach you about the seller buy down. Look at the impact here when we attack rate versus price. So we're doing it for the third of amount you can do it on price. So what's our next move? So tell me what's going on with this listing. And what I'm going to dig for is, one, I'm going to try to get him before he hits the price reduction. Number two, I want to know what that seller's doing. I want to know, does he have a loan that's maybe maxed out? Or what I'm really trying to find, this is where you're going to hit it out of the park, is, no, Scott, he's in escrow, or he's trying to buy and he needs that. I mean, Seth did one yesterday, and I had one too. And now you're dealing with assets. Now the seller buy down becomes relative to assets, meaning down payment. So if I'm having a conversation with Michael here, and he goes, hey, I mean, shoot, Scott, he's got a house. He's trying to move over to here for whatever reason, and he's trying to get 20% down. So let's say it's 150K, and he's working his payments on a normal mortgage calculator. Right, and so he's not allowing me to drop. I got to stick at the 789,900 because he's trying to net out a certain amount. So he goes, hey, here's what I'll do. I can do one for your seller, right, in his purchase. I can use like an 85 lender paid PMI, take it now, build the presentation. I would build it on a TCA now, right? I'm going to build it on a TCA and show him, here's a 20% purchase he was in. I did one for 760. The buyer, the listing agent told me this. Here's the actual one. Scott, the buyer's in escrow at 760. Scott, he's trying to put 20% down. In this case, he needed 161 cash to close. Scott, he also needs 20K for some small upgrades and repairs and carpet and fun stuff over there on his new purchase. So I need that. I need the 181, right? So I don't have much room on this listing. I need help. So what I did was, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is so easy. It's not even funny. I'm going to go ahead and build a presentation, and I'm going to show him 760, 20% down. I'm going to have the exact same numbers his lender probably built for him within right there. And I'm going to show him the cash to close. The next column on the TCA, I'm going to show him a lender paid 985, lender paid. Rate was, I remember, was whatever it was, 5 1/8 or something like that. I worked the numbers to where the numbers were identical. So it was the exact same payment, 20 versus 15. But what changed was his cash to close. We changed the cash to close less 31,000. So I now have 51,000. If he sells his current house and implements my seller buy down his up leg, I have 51,000 sitting in his hands for him. I got the payment he needs for qualifying. But now where did I get what I went with a listing agent? I go, how much do you need for us to implement this on your listing now? Because I freed up 31,000 in cash. 66, we worked it up. So we worked up a seller buy down on his current listing. I also did a presentation on a reno for his garage, because one of the issues was his house, he didn't have a garage. Those models or those tracks, about every third house don't have garages. So I did one presentation on a home style garage. I did another presentation, seller buy down, on his current listing for 66, I think it was. But I still have $45,000 for the seller. So now you're freeing up cash, or he can come back, in this case, in this brick New Jersey property. That's the type of dialogue you need to have with these agents. Find out what's clogging the drain. Go up top. Go to the seller. Can I free up money up there and show them, and then bring that savings back down? Let's keep going. I'm going to show some.
We have a couple of questions and a couple of things going on. So do listing agents get concerned about appraisal issues?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And so we all do, right? So we all do. So my first question, I want to try to attack that right up front. And if you were, Tina, if you were the listing agent, I go, Tina, so let's go. I love that, Scott. That's great. Let's do it. I go, well, wait a second. So let's talk about the property. Is it priced right? Do we have comps? Can I get my appraiser out there, or are you high? right? So we can have that conversation like, Scott, it's a little high. Okay, why is it high? Well, he or she won't let me move it down. Okay, then there I'm going to implement that. Let's figure out what they're doing then on the next transaction, maybe free up capital for you to get the price reduction. So in my mind's eye, I'm going to do price reduction I'm going to attack price of one of two situations. If it's all cash, I'm going to attack price. Mm-hmm. If it's overvalued, right, overpriced and comps are down here, yeah, we got to get it price reduced. Then from there, that term is gone from my vocabulary. Then I'm going to now attack rate. And so my first question in my conversations to agents is, Tina, if you're the listing agent, where's my comps? No, it's there. It's supporting. Look at the Virginia property right here, Alexander, Virginia. So here's one for $1,665,000. And then if Zestimate's got $1,107,000 or $1,716,000, she just hit it for 80. Look at the days on market.
It's a huge price drop.
What's that?
I said that's a huge price drop.
Percentage-wise, and I'm going to show you some smaller properties too. Percentage, I mean, if you do percentages, it's probably relative. But here's the great thing. Yeah, it's based on a percentage if that's what she's using, but we're going to come in and say, gosh, for 80, I can have the same financial benefits as we do it for 19, 20, 23 or whatever, to where we don't have to keep fleecing from the seller, right? So that's a property there. Here's a smaller one. Let's look in this one.
While you're doing that, seller paid points considered seller concession.
Yes. So concession. So here's the formula. And so if Tina's the agent, I'm going to negotiate with Tina, and I'll ask. Here's the dialogue I have, and let's role play for a second. Tina's the listing agent. I'm the loan officer. First thing I want to know from Tina: where's the property value wise? Right. Number two. Second, give me some dialogue. Give me the whole dialogue of the linear dialogue of what's going on with the seller. What do you need? What can I help you with? What's going on? Is there a condition issue? And so on. So I'm going to get that information. As a lender, what are we praying for? If I can actually implement a loan, a seller buy down for the seller, because I can do that real easy. And then the next thing, I'm going to help her market. So let's say it's not an issue. It's just people are slowing down for this property or for whatever reason. And so the next thing I'm going to ask her, the third thing, how much do I have to play with? What is your seller's goal of the net? So if it's a $500,000 house and it's free and clear, I go, Tina, what do they need to net? Scott, they need to net 475. They need to net 450. I need to find that net. And so what that tells me is how much I have to play with. And a lot of the times when I ask that question, I have more money than I need, right? And it's fun to go back to Tina and show her the report. This is Tina's listing agent here. Going, Tina, you gave me 50. All I need was 17 or 19 or whatever to implement the same thing, right? And so now we can put that in our back pocket for now. Let's move. So I would do that. So what was the question again? Oh, and so let's say it's 19, right? I get 19 from Tina, the listing agent. And so in the contract, we're going to write, this is really key right here. In the contract, I'm going to help Tina put the contract together and say, we're going to give it fair value or fair price. Let's say it's $500,000 with 19,000 seller concessions to be used for buyers' bona fide discount points. There's a bunch of different ways you can write it, as long as in the contract it says the concession is being used for buyers' discount points. When you have that sentence, it eliminates all of your predatory high-cost lending right there.
And add in upon approval.
Right. And so, actually a good one there. So when you do that, then your bank, your compliance, so I've done it because, back in the day, I'm like, oh, shoot, how do I get around it? So I sat down with all our compliance attorneys and figured it all out. They go, yeah, you get in contract, Scott, done. So perfect. And that's one of the big mistake I see LOs make is that it's not in the contract. They'll take the 19 and all of a sudden in the ninth inning, you're going, I got to fail here because we're going to have to throw this back because you're triggering all your high cost laws,
So Michael Green threw a property in the chat box to look at, and I'm just going to give you a down run. Basically, it's had price drops. It's had 4 of them since the beginning of January to now. So they're being pretty aggressive with the price drops. His question is, how do I approach this property? There is an open house this weekend. First of all, Michael, I would show up at that open house.
Yep. Yep. So
in hand with the seller buy down.
Right. I mean, yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, there's a bunch of different. Well, one, you got to show up and present. Just bring an iPad, bring something there, pre-send it to her, or what. I would show up in person. So I'm going to show up. I'm going to introduce myself. Hey, I want to help you with your property. You know, I noticed you've been doing this. Have you ever heard of the seller buy down? You know, introduce, but actually prepare your numbers. So show up. So it's a physical, tangible, living, breathing thing. So she gets it. It's her property. And so like this one here, look how small this one is. So 5K, you can do a lot of damage with 5K on this type of property. So you got to figure out what's going on with this thing. So I would be reaching out to BJ Knapp here, introducing myself, prepare the numbers, and then, hey, if our next move, so this is post drop, show them what 5,000 does if I attack rate versus price. That's my first angle. The next angle is saying, what's your next move? You know, is it 10? Are you then also get into the conversation with the seller again. Why is it here? But what is their next move? Are they handcuffing you from getting this property priced right? Right. So I need to figure, because a lot of times, and trust me, this happens a lot. It's the seller that's dictating this. And this won't go very far if the seller's strapped in here. Because think of, the seller is a consumer. They don't understand this. So what your job is to educate a seller, because they're a buyer too. And like, because think of a normal consumer. No, Scott, I got to put my 20 down to avoid. I don't want to pay mortgage insurance. Like, God, there's programs for that. And so that's where you would put your TCA. And if you get that solved, then you can really help BJ get this thing priced right. And it may be just drop it a few more grand, price drop it, because maybe it's just a smidge overpriced. You've unclogged that drain. Now you got a flowing linear transaction from the current one to his up leg.
And remember, you have a 3-to-1 ratio. So you don't have to match the price drop. You can come in and offer only 2/3 of that price drop cost. Right. And show them also saving money. Instead of lowering it down 30,000, you lower it 20,000, but you're getting a bigger impact when it comes to that actual payment.
So here's one on Zillow. This is a builder here. So this is just a spec house. So it's 71 days. And we all know builders holding the acquisition cost of that whole is really chewing into profit. So he's not going to want to, the builder here is not going to want to be so aggressive. They think it's there. What a great opportunity to go to new construction, to go to a builder like this. And this is Brick, New Jersey. This is one of the mortgage coaches right here that wanted to focus on Brick. I would build a presentation and show them how the seller buy down works, how we can market your property, how we can get it out to the general population, and showing, how you can help them. So, because in his mind's eye, he's probably in it for a lot of money, right? And then he's going, oh my God, this thing's on here for 71 days. The cost of hold here is getting too expensive. Okay, maybe I'll do a drop here, maybe incentivize thing. So one, if Tina was my builder, I'm going to go, Tina, hey, here, I want to introduce you to this, and then we get into the crux of the conversation. First question again, Tina, what do you think appraised value? What do you think I can get for value with an appraiser? That's important, because if she's going to tell me probably 850, well then, I mean, it's not going to work. Let's get it down to 850. Then I go, why are you holding it up here? What are you trying to do? Raise capital for your next up leg and so on. So I'm going to go down my series of questions again. Appraised value. What's your move? And then how much do I have to work with? Usually it's more than what I need. Now do a custom one based on those conversations. Boom, send it to Tina, the new construction, her property here. and then help market the property into an open house on social media. There's some other things I'll teach you at a later date that's really going to drive and facilitate delivering your presentations to the direct consumer.
So Nick said there's a lot of homes in his area that are at that 350 range.
Yeah.
Would you suggest to him reach out to listing agents every single day? And I would say, I mean, this is a no-brainer. Absolutely. If you see him being dropped, if you don't have a relationship with that person, this is an opportunity for you to start building a relationship, because I promise you the majority of loan officers out there don't even know what a seller buy down presentation is, let alone how to leverage it in the market in order for them to really show the selling agent how to capitalize on it and be able to benefit. Anything else on that, Scott?
Yeah, so I'm going to pull up an actual one here. This is Ghostwriter. I worked with an agent here, so let me pull this up. And this is your price point we're in. So it was Nick, right?
Yep.
Bear with me. So what we did here in this case, let me turn this off. In this case, so here's what we got. I got a property priced at $345. It's value. But the problem is the county limits in Vegas and FHA, I think, stop at 289, if I'm not mistaken. I should know that. I'm licensed in Nevada. And then what happens is the conforming. So this is a little bit higher than what the clientele is, right? So, but we all have markets like this. So they're struggling. It's comped right, but it's just too expensive for the clientele. Let's just call it. So the seller, I did this presentation for the listing agent, sent it to her. She presented because the listing agent's getting pressure from the seller. Gotta go. We're sitting here. This house is perfect. He's an Air Force. It's perfect. Why are we not selling this? Are you not marketing it? You know, what's going on? So she was desperate. I need help, Scott. What are my angles? Great. How much do you think I have to work with? Work with 5. Okay, fine. So I did 5. Here's what I did. So I put this presentation together, and ultimately what happened was the seller looked at it, loved it. This is incredible. His neighbor was standing in the 3 meeting, or with the 3 of them in his house. He goes, "Oh my God, I love this because you're not attacking my comps. I got to live here. I got to deal with your price reductions, agent." Right? So I love this angle. So what we did was the seller approved 5K. The video I put together was I gave the client 3 options to use that money. So I went to my TCA report. Column 1, all I went down was put in, this is what you're typically, I'm going to frame. So this is called framing. I want to paint the picture of this is what you're going to get from most people at the time I built it. Right? So $345, here's my payment, here's my cash to close. And in the video, I go, I'm going to give you 3 options for the seller's approved $5,000. I'm going to give you 3 options how to use it. Number 1, we're going to reduce price. I walk down that column. Number 2, we're going to reduce rate with the seller buy down. Walk down that column. Number 3, I'm going to give it to you off closing cost. Walk down that column. Obviously, if they don't have the cash to close, they're going to take 3. But let's just say it's not. Now do I take it on price or do I take it on rate? And so what I did next door, and if you notice here, here's a little trick. I made the savings, 5K saved 29 in price, 5K saved 101 in rate. What I did is I made all the payments equal. And when I did that, I made this column, this is your common denominator, all payments are equal, but I wanted to show them the next 2 graphs. Now I'm going to compare an apple to an apple, right? What is my savings over the first, and you can play with this number. You can do it in 36 months. You can do it in 24 months, but you can see clearly. Look at column, the 5,000 reduction, the savings was $1,349 to the client. The 5,000 in price and the seller buy down was 93. This is huge, and this is really important right here. There's a bunch of things that you need to learn from this presentation. Number 1, the price point. Number 2, it's not having the dramatic jumbo, sexy, sizzle, massive, income saved and all that. These are small, my neighborhood type stuff, right? Number 3, I'm showing that savings into a bigger picture now, right? And so they can think bigger picture like, wow, okay, man, if I take it on rate, That's an $8,000 swing in 6 months in cost. So why would I not attack rate? And then this last column here, and you can move this down, the principal paid. Now we're building out equity position and building capital and on a VA loan, no money down VA. So look at the difference between price. You're going to have $75,000 in equity based on amortizing and building it out. Or if we attack rate with a seller buy-down, you'll have 91. That's a $16,000 swing just by attacking and paying less to me in interest on the same payment. So you're now putting more away. So, I mean, well, obviously it was a slam dunk. It's $5K on the seller buy down.
And what I see time and time again on Facebook in our productivity group is we do have some naysayers that say seller buy down. If your client's selling early on and this is just a initial home that they're buying in, you want to save them the money up front. Reality is, run the numbers. 9 times out of 10, they're going to save more money in that time frame that they're going to live in there with the seller buy down with the lower interest rate because of the amount of money they're saving in interest.
Yep, that's a great point. And that's probably the fourth thing here, and this why this presentation is so important and why I'm actually altering some of my presentations. When I make the playing field level and payment-wise, like I did here, the 2086, right? And then I can bring them next door and show them all that. So the strategy I want them to understand is one, you can only do this in the purchase. I don't do this obviously in refi. I would never pay points like this in refis, but leveraging the seller, allow them to pay, take that below market. And then now let's take advantage of it, because that $101 could be 3 things. Number 1, that's the income or the payment you need just to get them qualified. That could be that. Number 2, they want that $101 savings because it met their personal budget. But number 3, right, let's say, and this is the different angle here. Well, I'm not sure. So when you present this way, it's like, I want to build for you down the road the equity position. So if this is not your house, if he's in Air Force or she's in Air Force 2 buying this property, and they usually move around every X amount of years, that's why this decision to attack rate now to make the same payment as if you're going to buy it normal, I'm going to give you an extra $8,000 so when we sell, or $16,000 when you're ready to transfer to a different base or whatever it may be. So if you're comfortable with it, but you want to take advantage of the seller buy down to leverage your position further out, I mean, why would you not pay less interest to a bank and then have more going to principal?
Mm-hmm. And the other thing I might consider highlighting on this is the freedom point, the term of the loan.
Right.
Because by putting that extra money down, he's shortening the term of the loan on that seller buy down on top of it. Yep. So they're going to only be paying for 27 years. Now we know reality, they're going to be in that home maybe 10 years.
Right. So that's a great point. That's a really good point. And that's why the graphs to the right here, that's why, and I can toggle these, right? Based on, so let's say he is military in this one. Let's say he's moving every 3 months. So I'm going to move this down to 24 months, savings in 24 months, and then principal paid in 3 or 4 or 5 years. So they can clearly see, wow, even though I'm paying maybe $5,000 more for this property, now the bigger picture here, when I pay less interest to a bank, I'm going to take advantage of that situation.
Especially if they take advantage of the principal reduction.
Yes.
So we do have most MLS only show realtor to promote price drop. How do they promote the seller buy down?
Wait, hold on. So say that question again.
In MLS, only the realtor can promote the home. So how can they promote a seller buy down in the MLS?
Oh man, I so desperately want to answer this question and tell you.
It's touchy.
No. And I'll tell you right now, for those who are on the call, I don't know how many are on the call.
We have 28 people on here. Are you going to share your secret?
Oh, shoot. I was swore to secrecy. But okay, so I could care less about the MLS. I'm not going to advertise it on there. Because you know why? Who really wants this? Who's our target?
Zillow's,
the
Redfin,
consumer. No, the consumer is, right?
Yeah. But the people who go there and look.
Yes, it's the consumer. So who's usually in our way most of the time? I don't know. And yeah, the agents, right? It's maybe too complex. Maybe I don't want to do it, don't understand or whatever. Sometimes there are blockade, right? I know that from 12 years of doing this. So my goal is to ultimately present to the agent to continue. So my weekly meetings are talking about inventory. What do we need to do next? Those are strategy meetings and so on. But ultimately, I want to present to the consumer. So I'll give you a little secret. 55% of all homes are sold are the information is gathered off what? The signs. So imagine building a platform that I can take my TCA and deliver that to the consumer that they can immediately text seller buy down or text that address and your information shows up on the phone. You can have a conversation with that client right there. This property is approved for below market financing. Text seller buy down to 714-978, da-da-da. So now I'm starting to deliver my message right to the consumer, or take the same strategy. Let's go on to the agent's social pages, right? Or my social pages. And let's then take this client and say, hey guys, got a buyer out there. It's approved for 345, but needs to get up here. This property is approved for a seller buy down. You know, click on here for the video or text this. And, you know, so without giving too much information, I promise I will. I give all the details soon. But that's your way around it right there, because we're all in the same boat. They don't want that going on the MLS. To be honest with you, most don't pay attention to that.
Rick, Scott, in the chat box, Rick put a link in there for a Zillow property. Do you have your chat box open?
Yeah, let me see if I can downsize my screen here.
If not, I can just bring mine up because I have it on mine as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh wait, here I got it.
You got it?
Would it be Q&A?
No, chat. It says chat with the little chat
got it.
window thingy.
Okay.
So I'm going to have him go through this one, and then I'm going to take over the screen. I'm going to go through a seller buy down. We're at the top of the hour, and just make sure that everyone's aware how to build them.
So who was I looking for? I apologize.
You're looking for Rick Lynn.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so here's Rick's. Let's take a peek at this.
His question is, Zestimate shows the value higher than the list.
Yep. So what Justin may be doing here, the listing agent, he may be taking it down lower to have multiple offers to bid up. Could be the case. I would then do a buy down, right, on this to prepare for him. So this is pre-reduction. So I'm going to have a conversation, prepare the report, you build in your numbers where you think it is. I'm going to sit down with Justin and have a pre-reduction, conversation. Justin, tell me what's going on. I can help you here. So if we get to day 22 and there's nothing going on, I can prepare this for you so we can go to the seller, right, and say, here's how we're going to market your house on day 23, right?
And if you scroll down, he actually just increased the home almost $8,000 in the last 30 days.
Oh, yeah, sure did.
Which is interesting. You probably saw what the Zillow was saying, and he increased his price saying, hey, or a local property sold maybe. Right. So comp would go up.
Yep.
But I would definitely take that $8,000 that he just increased it, show a seller buy down with the $8,000 just in case he has to drop it back down, and how it would affect them if they don't drop the price, but they offer that seller concession.
Right. And so you're just looking for, so it could be to where the seller is handcuffing Justin at this price point, right? Here's because obviously they work with net sheets and so on. So he's probably got something he's transferring out or is moving to a different neighborhood, or he needs X amount for retirement, whatever the issue is. If I were you, Rick, I would want to have detailed conversations with Justin, not only to help with his property. So prepare one on this property. That'll get his attention. That's mine. This is real life. I can do this now. This is your pre-drop presentation. So when we go, I can update the numbers. You tell me the number, but bigger picture, Justin, tell me what's going on with the seller. Is there any pain points there? Are they trying to get X out from you? You know, what kind of room do we have? That's the kind I would attack here.
Cool. I don't see any other questions, but I am going to take over the screen.
Yeah, there's actually one more from Michael Green.
Michael Green.
Let me pull that one up.
Oh, I pulled that one up earlier, and that's the one that had the 4 price drops.
Oh.
So that's this property here.
Oh.
So when I scrolled down, it showed they've been price dropping it like crazy.
Oh man, look at that.
So I'm like, show up on Saturday the 11th. Actually, if they have one Friday, I would show up on Friday.
Where's the house? This is in Santa Cruz. That's a, well, yeah. So I'm gonna build a custom presentation for Mark there. I might even show him, you know, just this is a post drop conversation, right? So you can even go back one price drop, the last price drop, build that in for your seller buy down, and then you can say, hey, your last drop there, what was it? Shoot, that was
huge.
Oh my gosh.
50,000.
Yeah. And so what I would do, you know, something for like 25, 18, 19 to have the same impact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have how much for the seller buy down to have the same impact for 50, right? I'm going to show them that. Your 50 saved them $200. My 19 saved them whatever it comes out to be, 200. So whatever it's going to be. Because what I just did there is you're now addressing the buyer's concern for 19 versus 50, right? And then, okay, so the next move, all I need is this. So if you're going to come off 879, just give me this amount and we can really address the consumer now.
And I would definitely on this one address the comp issue because it does look like it's supposed to comp around 900 if you go based on the Redfin estimate. And we know these are always off, but make that him come up with comps. What is the real range for this home? And let's move from that range and maybe they take it off the market for a little while and then come back with that seller buy down option.
This may go in a little too deep here. Are agents boycotting Redfin? You know, showing that. Yeah. So that's why build this presentation, get the link out to the consumers, right? Help the listing agent get to the consumer directly. Because if there's a childish game of agents won't show because of the comp being delivered or whatever, or their announcement yesterday that Redfin's going buy directly without an agent, stuff like that, that may be impacting what's going on here.
Completely agree. Okay, I'm going to go through the seller buy down. If you do have questions, you can either raise your hand or drop it in the chat box, either one. But no, you can build a seller buy down from the client area or the partner area. And in both areas, they're built the same way. So I'm going to go in. He showed you the client one. I'm going to go ahead and double click into one of my realtor ones, the partner presentation. And the advantage of this one is if you are doing an open house presentation and you're offering it, having that co-branding ability. So when you come back to the end of presentation on client or partner, there's the select report. Clicking into select report is where you're going to be able to tag into seller buy down. On the client area, it says TCA, then seller buy down. So it's the second option. When you move over, now you're going to put in the information about the seller buy down. So the price credit, so how much money are they talking about dropping that price? What makes sense on dropping that price? On this one, I put 20,000. The seller paid points, how much is it going to cost the seller when you're using a seller paid buy down? And then what is that change of rate going to be? So in my case, it's going to drop it down a little less than 0.5%. And then you have that ability to name the columns. And that's something I learned from you today, Scott, is some of alternative names because I hadn't found anything that I liked. So definitely leverage what is that goal? Why are you doing or why are you showing the seller buy down? And include it in these names because I think that's really smart. Then presentation title. Again, if you know what's going on, seller buy down. You know, and then putting the reason why. If it is for a presentation piece in the home, then you could put price payment reduction by $200 a month, and really be able to highlight why you're doing that seller buy down and what is it that the people who come into the home want to see as far as advertising that's going to get them to buy in. What's going to make them make the offer? And then this one, you have photos available. This is an actual home from my hometown. And then once you go in here, just like he said, going in here, you have that first one, basic buy as is today market price. Price reduction based on that $20,000 price drop. How much am I going to save my client? I'm going to save them $102 a month. That third one is rate reduction. I'm going to take, instead of $20,000, I'm only coming in with $7,000 on this one and dropping it $62. So it's not as big as a drop here, but what you see down here is I'm actually saving that seller $18,000. So $18,000 is going to go back into their pocket, but they're still going to see a savings on that monthly payment. And the last one is the price versus rate. If I was going to drop it only to affect the payment, $62, I would only need to go down that 15 instead of the 20,000. So also up here, I did want to point out, because I saw Scott was doing like me, unhighlighting. If you go up here to the upper left, the menu bar up here, it has a clear all. You can clear all of that highlighting out at once, so you don't have to go through and unclick them. I know habits are hard to break once you get into a habit.
I didn't know that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So diving into it, and this one again, if you're doing an open house presentation, you know, having that co-branded is going to be great, but you can build it in either side. So I did want to open it up. Last questions. We're at 10:05, a little over the hour. But if you do have questions, you can raise your hand. If you have a mic, I'll unmute you, or you can drop it down in the chat box. Scott, anything last you want to make sure that you mention?
Yeah, I think I think there's so much opportunity in it. Yeah, there's going to be some markets, you know, and you and I are in markets too. If the house is, I'll give you an example last night, is literally same listing agent, about 2 blocks from each other, 2 houses in the same tract. One had 4 offers and one is on day 25, right? Same price point, same everything. Big first time home buyer, or maybe a small move up. Why? Is because the one that's sitting is not fixed up, and the seller just pumped in $30,000 just for lipstick and all that. You got 4 offers. So what does that tell you? From what that tells me, what I think about is the client gets tapped at those price points cash wise. So you can be able to come in and maybe do an 85 seller paid, you know, doing a small buy down, right, with less cash. That's going to help his second property move. So we're going to start working on that property. They're right next to each other. Same track, same everything, same price. One has 4 offers, one doesn't. It's conditioned, right? So, and then also in my market, I got people 14 offers recently. But then I got people that are just sitting and sitting and sitting. There's opportunity galore. I don't care what market. Yeah, there's some markets like DC is going nuts, I know. There's some Silicon Valley's going crazy. But there's lots of opportunities still there too.
And we are starting to see, like a couple of years ago where we had a lot more dual markets, we're starting to see that whole dual market again. And that's where the lower end is selling and moving and that upper end is staying on. So not only is it the opportunity to be able to come in and sell that low end home and be able to ask for a little bit more, but then asking for that seller buy down to buy in. And so they're going to get a bang, bang situation. Like it's going to be a bonus on both ends.
Yep. No, that's it. I mean,
Rick
we can
has
go
a
for
question.
days. Yeah, we can go for days on this
We
stuff.
can.
So I'll be quiet.
Rick, you want to go ahead and ask? Looks like we're having a mic issue.
He was probably just muted. Give him a sec.
Yeah, see if you're muted on your headset if you have a mute button on the end. Nope, looks like we have mic issues, Rick. We can't hear you.
So Rick typed it, so maybe I'll help him. So here's my question. This estimate shows value higher than list.
Oh, that's his question from before.
Yeah, 956. So yeah, that's a good thing, right? Because when buyers sees that, they think they're getting a deal, right? Versus the other way, where it gets a little more tricky is if that estimate is lower than the actual sales price. So the client, even though come on, we're all bankers, and we know that's just a guess, right, so to speak. So, but the buyer doesn't know that. They think the house, so where the problem actually comes in, and this, your question, Rick, is that's a good thing. So they're really, you're going to show them not only to buy a house under value per quote Zestimate, but you can even show it even further of a buyer gain there, so to speak. It's when it's flipped, it gets a little tricky because the buyer thinks it's not priced right.
Any other questions or any other concerns that anyone has before we let everyone go? If not, thank you, Scott, for showing up. I appreciate it. I'll head over to your office. I was actually going to ask you, do you have one of our coveted Mortgage Coach stickers?
I need one. So let's
I will stop by and stop by for coffee, and I'll bring you a sticker.
Yeah. Okay, great. Done. Promise. Deal.
Promise. Okay. Thank you guys all.
Thanks, guys.
I appreciate you guys showing up, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Great.